G'day golfers. Ever found yourself redirecting blame and making excuses after having an absolute shocker on a golf course? I know that I have. Range was closed, I was a little cold, didn't warm up, I hit it in those 3 old divots. Then we have the podcast for you. We focus on how to fundamentally own your swing. Strike it pure and consistently shoot in the 70s. Be it if you're a weekend hack, retired and playing daily, a school phenom or a tour professional. We present and discuss facts and physics pertaining to golf, trying to keep our ego and opinion at bay. We dispel myths such as keep your head down, bend your knees, or my all-time favourite, game improvement irons. So stop drinking that mythical Kool-Aid and have a sip of ours. I think you'll find it both inspiring and refreshing. I'm Scott Young, founder of Swing, PGA professional and ex-tour player. Welcome to Pivot the Path. G'day golfers and welcome to Pivot the Path. US Open Father's Day weekend. Holy moly, I have never jumped out of my seat ever watching golf, let alone a lot of sport. When JJ Spaun held that 64-foot putt to win, I literally, and I'm not bullshit you, I was jumped out of my chair. It was electric. So welcome to Pivot the Path. We've got a lot to unpack. It's the 125th US Open, and we trust that all the dads around the world, especially Mr. JJ Spaun, had a fantastic Father's Day. I know I did. My dear old dad's battling some dementia back home, so shout out to you and all the other families who have got some stuff going on. And Pop back home in Western cannot do any of this without you. So we love you to bits, and I hope you guys have had a great family weekend. Father's Day, Mother's Day, it's just a time to say thanks to your parents, because without them, we wouldn't be here. So let's move on. Our improvement pivot point had 64 feet in the making. We'll get into just how JJ Spaun got that done and how that alludes to our improvement pivot point. I actually just wanted to talk about some practical things about when it rains. Obviously, the Oakmont US Open was remembered as probably one of the toughest weather conditions for a tough golf course. So I wanted to talk about a couple of practice things. I'm heading to Ireland the day this airs, and so I hopefully won't be carrying an umbrella, but if I do, a couple little tricks of the trade I'll throw at you. And it's amazing how many golfers actually don't know how to play in the rain. Super simple. You've just got to accept that you're going to get wet. News from the fairway. We only had the LPGA Tour playing, and the young Spaniard Carlota Cigandra, young Spanish chick, I think it was her third win, so she won 16, had 16 under, played very well. Third victory on LPGA. It is amazing to me how subtly the US majors, Masters, PGA, US Open, have basically shut down all the other tour events so that they get primetime TV, which I find, a little weird. I think they're monopolizing the time, which is, I guess, what they're trying to do. So we've got no other viewership. So all our viewership and eyeballs must go to the majors, which I find a little controlling, but there it is. So that was the only other event. And 125th US Open, one that I tried to pre-queue for. It highlighted a lot of what I have to work on in my game. Before we jump into the 125th US Open, on the greens for us, I actually played 3 times in the last week since this aired, which is uncanny. I played 9 holes with my brother after building him a set of clubs. We then played Ferry Point with a dear old mate of mine, one of my closest mates, Rob Kahn, who I've known since we were about 8. And we played with Bill, who's a member here, and my brother. And unfortunately, I played really poorly. I hit the ball poorly. I didn't warm up on the range. I take ownership of it. One thing I'm doing with my golf a lot better is I just own it now. I got myself on video during that day, and there was a lot going on. My dear old brother isn't used to playing some pretty strong tracks, and so we had to take a cart just because one of the chaps had a bad hip, and Bretto left the cart like 30 yards before the green if we were walking off the back of the green. So I was constantly moving the cart to the back of the green because we had people up our backside. Long story short, I kind of always focus when I'm doing playing lessons on everyone else. And Ferry Point is a brutally difficult golf course. We played off the back thereabouts. So I actually got myself on video and I practiced on Thursday and Friday morning. And I just took video of me playing, and I just noticed a couple of little idiosyncrasies. So I worked on them on Thursday night at about 8 o'clock after I shut this place down. I hit balls for about 40 minutes before I went home. And then Friday played with Dr. Maddie Maisley, our new PT, and one of our members here, and just absolutely striped it and chipped in and played really well. So I am very proud that I take ownership of my game, and I know exactly what I got to work on. It's the same old things. With my chipping, I get the handle a little too far forward. So if I have to hit a high flop shot, I run out of room. And so I hit two little bladey chips that I wasn't happy with just because I get a little stuck. But I got that on video, and I've got to remember to release that club a little bit. And then I just was out of sync. So Friday I played up at West Point, which was the Army golf course. And I think it was $28. A shout out Jesse, head general manager and PGA professional up there. Absolute wonderful human being. And the whole tone of the West Point was welcoming. And so Paul, who we played with daughters at West Point, we thought that was fitting. About an hour north of the city. It was $30 and it was magnificent. We walked West Point and it was pretty hilly. So we walked the front nine, and the back nine was ridiculously hilly. And Jesse, the head pro, said, hey, you'll probably want to get a cart. So it was interesting to walk the front. Everyone was looking at us as if we had two heads. And I just said to Paul, this is how I grew up playing golf, was hoofing your bag. It didn't matter how hilly it was. Whereas the American culture is so destined on golf carts because that's one of the biggest revenue sources for the PGA Pro. And guys, you got to walk. Like, it's as simple as that. You got to walk when you play golf. And so we walked the front, carted the back, which was fine. And we had a great experience. And why are we so adamant on walking? Because when you're sitting in a golf cart, you're tightening and shortening your hip flexors, and it reduces how much your hips can turn. And that's kind of irrefutable. You can't debate that. So if you've got the option, so when we played Longshore with my brother last Friday, which is dead flat, and I think it's only 6,000 yards, it's really short, but a brilliant little golf course. There were still guys on golf carts. And I just cannot understand why you don't walk when you play golf. If you've got a medical condition, that's one thing. As I said, we're heading to Ireland to play this coming week. Now, we need, as golfers in Ireland, an actual medical doctor's letter like you do in Australia to get a golf cart, whereas the American culture is absolutely golf cart first. Try to walk, guys. It slows your hips down. It tightens your hip flexors. It reduces you using your glutes. When your glutes stabilize, your hips turn. We know physiologically you'll play worse golf in a golf cart. But the culture in the US here is cart first. So we're trying to change that. Why? Because we want you to own your swing. And own your swing for myself and Rosemary isn't just a golf thing. We have 4 kids, and we have 4 kids who are thriving in sport. And one thing that we absolutely live is you own your swing. So when I played on Wednesday at Ferry Point, I hit the ball really badly. To that point, I really worked on Thursday to iron out by getting myself on video on the golf course what it was I was doing. So I don't just work on something that I feel. I'm like, here's the video. My pre-shot routine I didn't go through on Thursday because I was worried about Bretto and Rob and helping everyone else, which I love, don't get me wrong. But then I noticed after a couple of hours of doing just a kind of a half-assed job at a pre-shot routine, that half-assed momentum carried onto the golf course. And so onto my actual shot. And so on Friday, I made sure I stuck to my routines. Even though I was helping Maddie and Paul, I really stuck to my routines and just ripped it. So it's amazing how a little bit of momentum can carry on both negatively and positively. And what we try to do with our family is really live the Own Your Swing. So on the weekend, we had both of our girls, poor old Rosemary was in the car for about 12 hours. We were playing lacrosse tournaments, 4 or 5 hours away. And they had 4 or 5 games where they had half an hour, 40 minutes in between. And we're actually onto the girls. We're like, ladies, make sure you eat, make sure you hydrate. And is your head in the right place to jump onto a lacrosse pitch? Because you've got to switch off for 40 minutes while the round robin tournament gets on. And then you've got to flick the switch and actually own it. And you've got to actually, for Tilly, she had to shut down those defenders. And for Bushy, who plays a midi role, she's got to attack. And so what we're trying to do is say, hey, be able to flick that switch, turn on, turn off. And then lo and behold, Colton, our youngest guy, played in his first chess tournament yesterday where there was no talking. There were 6 chess boards, three on each side. And we weren't allowed to, well, I wasn't allowed to talk. We weren't allowed to help. They weren't allowed to talk. It was very serious for a 7-year-old. That was pretty full on. But it was actually own your swing. You're there to actually compete. And so the American mindset as an Aussie, I've found to be a little more difficult because in Australia, and this is a polar apart comment. In Australia, it matters not whether you win or lose, it's how you play the game. And the American mindset, it matters not how you play the game, it's whether you win or lose. And so as an Aussie, I've learned just to embrace that competitive spirit, which I certainly didn't have growing up and in Australia. But the American mindset is just brutal in terms of you're there to win. And I saw that with this chess tournament with Colton. It was full on, and he really enjoyed it, to be honest. But the whole mindset of own your swing. So, which leads us to JJ. Holy moly. Now to the 125th US Open. I got to be honest, when he holed that 64-foot putt on 18 for birdie and to win, I literally, not figuratively, jumped out of my chair. It was the most electric I've been probably since Tiger chipped in at Augusta way back when. JJ hasn't played phenomenal golf leading into the US Open. In 2024, I wrote this down, he played 27 events and missed 11 cuts. You know, that's not setting the world on fire. He hasn't won since 2022 Valero Texas Open. So here's a guy, and this story is fantastic. I'm not sure how many of you know. So on Saturday night, he's obviously in and around the lead. Saturday night, Sunday morning, 3 a.m., leading up to the last round of the US Open, when I think he was a couple of shots behind. His daughter's sick, so at 3 a.m. he had to go to CVS to get some medicine. His daughter's very, very ill. And it was a powerful Father's Day, pivot the path, own your swing, never give up moment. So at 3 a.m., he's hoofing it down to get some medication for his daughter, even though he's got to peg it up in a few hours' time for the US Open. He then has 5, and this is no correlation, right? But it just shows you the US Open. What was the US Open for me? Never give up. Stick to your routines. So he's had 5 bogeys in the first 6 holes. For those who didn't see it, he bogeyed the first, obviously very nervous. Adam Scott bogeyed the first. So many players in the top 5 bogeyed the first. It's a brutal hole. The second hole, JJ's hit a beautiful drive. He's got about 92 yards, which I'm sure is his yardage, right? I'm sure on the second hole he worked out how far he had to hit that second shot for his yardage. I played to 100 yards. I'm sure 90 yards was probably his. He's hit a beautiful little pitch spinner in there. It's hit the green, and it was going to stop within about 6 feet of the hole, but because he's hit the green and now the ball's spinning, he's hit the pin and it's spun way back. So he's 90 yards from his second shot on 2. He then hits the pin and then it ricochets back to 50 yards, 47 to be exact. And then he makes another bogey. He then makes 5 bogeys of the first 6 holes. And all of a sudden, one could argue that he's out of the event. But what the US Open does, every major has its identity. The Masters is the smoke and mirrors. They've created, the Masters is a bigger event than the actual tournament. It's all about control and colours and controlling the narrative, right? And Rory was the controlled narrative. The British Open is, in my opinion, the best golfer for the week because that breeze, the gauze, the golf course is brutal. And you've got to actually shape the ball both ways. The US Open is just brutal golf course. The rough was so penal. In the British Open, you have had a shot if you do hit the ball in the rough. If you hit it in the gauze, maybe not. But the US Open, if you don't hit fairways, you will make bogeys. And so the US Open is just pure resilience and doggedness and never give up. And the PGA it's a different tournament because we've got guys like myself who are PGA teaching pros now. And so the US Open being so brutal is all about never giving up. And so here's JJ who's had 5 bogeys in the first 6. He hits pins, he hits rakes, he has a lot of bad luck, but he just plugs along and he never gives up and he stays in his routine and he just sticks to his process. whether it was getting up at 3 a.m. in the morning for his kids, whether it's hitting the flag stick, ricocheting back to 50 yards. 50 yards is a very difficult little shot where he made bogey. Whether it's hitting the rake the next hole. The point is, what we're trying to do at swing is parlay and draw strength from that moment of never giving up. So when Colton's playing his chess tournament, and not paralleling my son's chess at 6, 7 years of age to the US Open, but it's the same mindset that Rosemary and I live, we instill in our kids, right? Whether you're performing a task, whether you've played on Wednesday with my brother, who I clearly wanted to play well with, and Rob Kahn and Billy here, and I didn't warm up, I didn't have the same routines, but I own that. And so on Thursday night, after I closed here, after working 13 hours at swing, I hit balls for an hour because I wanted to get back to play the next day on Friday, and I wanted to play better. I get really pissed off when I play poor golf. And so I try to own that, or I did own that. And then on Friday, I got back to my 6-shot drill where I had my 6-iron, I'm hitting high fades, low draws. And Paul said to me, "What are you doing there?" And I said, "I'm just trying to work out what ball flight I've got." You know, on Friday, I stuck to my routines and I played really, really solid golf. And Paul said to me, "What do you do after a bad shot?" And I said, "As soon as I let that ball go, I erase it from my memory." And we want, this whole podcast is, how do we help you guys own your golf swing? JJ Spaun, US Open, it's a brutal round of golf. And then it starts bucketing down the last 9 holes. There was a weather delay, a rain delay. The course was insane. And yet he just stayed within himself. And he owned his golf swing by owning the process. And then he hit it on. 17 was a reachable par 4. So he's birdied 12, he's birdied 14. He's knocked it on 17 to about 18 foot, missed the eagle putt, made birdie. And then he held a 64-footer on 18 to clinch the win. And for us, and for me personally, it was the most electric I've been watching golf in a decade. For JJ Spaun to win in such an emphatic motion, where his family was there, and he's just an unassuming guy. For the last 4 or 5 years, he hasn't set the world on fire. He's just been getting better and better. And I've played a bit of golf with Kevin Kisner over the years, and Kis said, and I didn't know this, that he gave JJ a bit of a kick up the arse, I think it was 18 months, 2 years ago, and said, "Mate, you're too hard on yourself. Focus on your pre-shot routine and focus on your self-belief, and you'll be a phenomenal player." And I'm sure JJ would have thanked Kev for that little bit of locker room banter. I just absolutely loved watching Spaun triumph over bogeying the first 5 holes. And Scotty looked nervous and Sam looked nervous. And I just thought the US Open was absolutely magnificent. Obviously the USGA, it's their badge of honor to make the golf course as hard as possible. JJ Spaun was the only single player to finish under par, and I thought the whole thing was an absolute fairy tale finish, and the way he held that left to right on the last was just nothing short of phenomenal. So, mate, kudos to you. Thank you for representing everything that we try to do with our brand, which is own your swing, take ownership. When Sammy Burns should have got a very, very easy waterlogged, when you place your feet on the ground, water should come to the surface. And I thought Sammy Burns should have got a drop on 15, I think. He went on to make double. When JJ Spaun hit the flag stick and then hit the rake, had some bad luck, got up at 3 a.m. for his kids, didn't bitch and whinge, just got on with it. And Sammy Burns, hopefully he's going to learn from that motion where he should have got a drop, but he held on to it. And he made double bogey and then made a couple of bogeys coming in. And he should have stayed in that golf tournament, but let the moment be bigger than the golf tournament. And as soon as you let a moment be bigger than the event, you get out of your process, you get out of owning your swing, you get out of controlling the process. And with golf, you can become very quickly unraveled. Coco Gauff won the French Open by losing the first set. And the difference between most other sport, and this is why I love F1, you cannot let down for a second. And so even though Coco lost the first set in the French Open, paralleling Grand Slam tennis to major golf, in majors, you just cannot let up. And so when Sammy Burns had that little bit of misfortune, I 1,000% believe he should have got a drop. He let that get to him. and Scotty let a couple of putts get to him. But JJ Spaun, mate, absolutely, I'm so proud of being part of you and how you owned your golf swing. And one little improvement pivot point I wanted to pivot to was just to show you how to deal with the rain. When I go to Ireland, hopefully I won't have to deal with this. And we thought we'd show you how to use an umbrella properly just to finish this and tie this back to the US Open. So let's get into it. Okay, so a little bit of an improvement pivot point. Most people don't know how to use an umbrella. So I'm going to put an umbrella in here. Isn't there bad luck about this? 7 years bad luck. What I'm going to do, and hopefully we don't get this in Ireland, but the whole idea of playing in the rain, you've got to keep your hand and you've got to keep your gloves dry. So I'm going to get a couple of gloves here and I'm going to put them on the Velcro, and I'm probably going to have 4 or 5 gloves here. Okay. If I'm playing a golf tournament, I'm actually going to get a bath towel, not a little golf towel. And I'm actually going to thread the bath towel through the rungs of the umbrella. And this is where I'm going to live for about 6 hours. Now, you can't let the towel get on your gloves, so I'd probably put the gloves way up here. The point is, you've got to use the towel and you've got to keep your hands dry. I just succumb to getting wet. I'm going to get drenched if I'm playing in the rain. But one thing you cannot is, so actually I'll do this properly. So I'd take my gloves off here and I'd put my glove way up this side. You've got to keep your gloves dry, and I'd probably have about 5 or 6 gloves and I'd have my towels. And so when I'm doing my pre-shot routine, I'm standing here doing my pre-shot routine, and then I'd put the glove down. I'd actually then quickly go into my pre-shot routine and quickly pick my towel up, I pick my umbrella up, glove on, and away I go. Remember, how to use an umbrella with your towels and your gloves, absolutely foolproof. So you can absolutely own your swing. Beauty golfers, look, thanks for listening. US Open, JJ Spaun, so in love with you. You're awesome, dude. Hopefully you have a wonderful week with your ladies. And remember, you can absolutely own your swing with the work you put into your game. Understand how to use an umbrella. So you can own your swing and play some phenomenal golf. We'll see you next week. Cheers.